The morning of the wedding, she pressed her dress twice. She had sewn it herself 15 years ago from pale blue cotton, and she had worn it only on the best days of her life. Today was supposed to be one of those days. It was not. Eleanor Moss woke before the sun came up, the way she always had. 62 years old, back straight, hands steady from a lifetime of working them hard. She brewed her coffee in the same chipped white mug she had used for 20 years and drank it out on the back step while the morning birds argued in the oak trees. Her son was getting married today. She had been counting the weeks. The dress hung on the closet door where she had put it the night before. Pale blue, hand-stitched, pressed until it held no memory of the hanger. She had made it herself from a pattern she found in a library book, back when libraries still had those. It had traveled with her to 3 milestone days in her son Marcus's life: his high school graduation, the day he earned his engineering degree, and the afternoon he passed his professional licensing exam. Good days only. That was her rule for it. On the kitchen table sat the gift, wrapped in brown paper and tied with baker's twine. Inside the wrapping sat a pocket watch that had belonged to Marcus's grandfather, a small gold thing engraved on the back with the words his grandfather had lived by: "Time given is never wasted." 3 generations of Moss men had wound that watch. Tonight it would pass to the 4th. Eleanor tied the ribbon slowly, like a prayer she didn't have words for yet. Her phone lit up on the table. A call from the office, a name she recognized from the quarterly reports, a number she rarely saw on weekends. She looked at it through 2 full rings and then pressed the side button to silence it. "Not today," she said aloud to no one. "Today I am only his mother." 40 miles north, the wedding was being constructed like a product launch. Harrington Hall sat behind iron gates and 200 years of family money, all marble fountains and manicured grass so perfect it looked like someone had painted it on. By 9 in the morning, florists and lighting technicians and a drone operator mapping camera angles had already filled the grounds. 300 guests were expected: investors, tech founders, the kind of people who mentioned their vacation homes to make a point. At the center of it all stood the bride. Celeste Harrington, 34, chief executive of a financial services company that had made the cover of 2 business magazines in the past year. Her gown had cost what a public school teacher earns in 4 months. Her smile was precise and intentional, switched on and adjusted like a camera setting. She moved through the garden on her final walkthrough, touching chair ribbons, redirecting centerpieces, her voice carrying across the lawn without effort. "This is not a family reunion," she told her wedding planner, a thin and efficient woman named Bridget who trotted behind her with a tablet. "Every person who steps through that gate is a photograph. Every photograph is the brand. I am the brand." She paused at the seating chart. Front section, cameras and money. Far section, behind the speakers, anyone who looks like they wandered in. She didn't say who she expected to wander. She didn't have to. Her eyes flicked, just briefly, toward the column marked Groom's guests. Across the estate behind the rose hedge, Marcus Moss stood in his tuxedo while a photographer arranged his groomsmen by height. He laughed at something one of them said. He checked his wrist out of habit, though he wore no watch. That was still on a kitchen table in a small house 40 miles south, wrapped in brown paper. He had a surprise planned for his mother at the reception: a front-row chair with her name on a small card, and a toast he had been quietly writing for 3 weeks. At 11 o'clock, a city bus exhaled at the stop on the highway outside Harrington Hall's iron gates. Eleanor stepped down onto the gravel shoulder, holding her wrapped gift against her side. She looked up at the gates and smoothed her skirt and smiled the way she always had when she was about to see her boy. At the gatehouse, a young attendant checked names against his tablet and frowned. A woman in a cream blazer appeared before Eleanor had finished spelling her last name. The woman's name was Bridget, though she did not offer it. Her eyes made a quick inventory of Eleanor, the gray hair pinned back, the pale blue dress, the shoes that had been resoled once, and something in her expression settled into a decision. "We'll get you situated while we sort out a small verification issue," Bridget said. She did not walk Eleanor up the main drive. She led her along the service path, past the catering trucks and the humming generator, over gravel that crunched under their feet. Eleanor noticed. She had been noticing things like this her entire life. She said nothing. Section B was at the far end of the garden behind the speaker towers. 12 folding chairs with no ribbons. From this angle the altar was barely visible. A loudspeaker cable snaked through the grass beneath the seats. "You'll be comfortable here," Bridget said. "Great acoustics." Then she touched her earpiece and walked away. An old man in a clip-on tie was already seated in the far row. He nodded at Eleanor when she sat. "First time in B?" he asked after a moment. "I gave piano lessons to the bride for 9 years." He shrugged the way a man shrugs when he has made his peace with something. "They put the gardener's family back here too. Good people. You will like it better than A, trust me. The honest ones always end up in B." The whispers reached her before the woman did. Someone over by the champagne station had noticed the woman in the blue dress sitting behind the speakers, and the question was moving from guest to guest like a rumor. One of them detached herself from the cluster and came closer, a woman in a peach hat and good pearls, lacquered and precise in the way that takes money and practice. This was Margaret Harrington, mother of the bride, 60 years of opinions behind a country club smile. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" she asked, looking at Eleanor's shoes. "Catering check-in is around back through the service entrance." "I'm a guest," Eleanor said. "Mother of the groom." Margaret blinked. Then she laughed, a small bright sound like ice in a glass. She leaned in, perfume first. "I don't know how things are done where you come from, honey, but here we do dress for the occasion. There's a boutique in town that does rentals." "This dress was made for occasions like this," Eleanor said. Margaret's smile tightened one notch. She drifted back to the pearls and pastel hats, and whatever she said made 3 women turn around to look at Eleanor and then look away laughing. Eleanor breathed in slowly. She thought about Marcus at 7 years old, standing on a step stool to help her wash dishes, singing the wrong words to songs on purpose, because he had learned early that it made her laugh. She thought about layaway school shoes and double shifts, and the night the college acceptance letter arrived, and they danced in the kitchen with the radio on because they couldn't afford to go anywhere. She could sit behind a speaker tower for one afternoon for that boy. She could sit behind almost anything. She carried the brown paper package to the gift table, where presents rose in silver towers, crystal and envelopes thick as paperback novels. A staff member in white gloves accepted the package with 2 fingers, holding it slightly away from his body. Eleanor asked him to please be careful, that it was older than both of them. He set it in the far corner of the table, behind a punch bowl, out of the photographs. She asked if he could put her card on top so Marcus would know it was from her. He tucked it under the twine and was already looking past her before she finished thanking him. She did not see what happened next. She was already walking back toward her folding chair when the staff member, following instructions given during the walkthrough, nothing on the gift table that wasn't on the design board, carried the brown paper package to a service tent and dropped it in a gray plastic bin labeled Lost and Found. The box landed corner first on a forgotten umbrella. Inside the velvet case, inside the wrapping, the watch his grandfather had wound every morning for 30 years took the impact on its face. A crack ran through the glass from edge to edge, straight across the engraving. "Time given is never wasted." Nobody heard it. The string quartet was tuning. Celeste Harrington was doing her final walkthrough when she saw her. A woman in a faded blue dress crossing the lawn from the direction of the gift table, moving with the quiet, straight-backed posture of someone who had spent a lifetime not asking for things. Celeste had met Marcus's mother exactly twice. both times as a small face on a phone screen during video calls she had been doing other things during. She had answered emails off camera. She had said the right words at the right intervals. She had skipped the engagement dinner for a board retreat and the rehearsal dinner for a press call. Now the woman was 40 feet away, walking across her perfect lawn in a dress that did not belong in the photograph. Bridget. Celeste's voice did not lower. It lifted. What is that? 300 heads turned along the line of her gaze. The quartet faltered. Someone's phone camera clicked on, then another. I am Marcus's mother, Eleanor said, quiet level. It carried anyway. Celeste let a small laugh escape, inviting the crowd to share it. Marcus's mother is a respectable woman. I have spoken with her. You are not whatever this is. She gestured to the head of security, a broad-shouldered man named Dale. Walk her out before the photographer finishes setup. Dale materialized at Eleanor's elbow, his hand hovering near but not quite touching her arm. He had 11 years of moving people out of rooms. He knew a threat and he knew a heartbreak and he knew which one this was. Ma'am, he said, you need to come with me. I only want to watch my son say his vows, Eleanor said. 5 minutes, that is all I am asking. You're not hearing me, Celeste said, the smile entirely gone now. This wedding has a look, you are not in it. Eleanor stood very still while strangers raised their phones around her. The woman who had sewn this dress for good days only made a decision that had been building for 60 years. She would not cry in front of these people. She would not give them that. Not one tear. Dale walked beside her up the aisle of staring faces, his hand never landing on her back. For what it's worth, ma'am, he said quietly, I am only doing my job. I know, son, she said. So was everyone who ever did something like this to someone. Halfway to the gate, Bridget caught up with them, heels stabbing the lawn tablet against her chest. One more thing, I need to see your invitation. Eleanor opened her handbag, old leather, buttersoft from years of use, and produced a cream card with gold lettering, the one Marcus had mailed in October with a small sticky note on the envelope that read, Front Row, Mama. Bridget held it up to the light the way a bank teller checks a bill. The calligraphy on the L is off, she said. We had a batch stolen from the print shop. For safety purposes, I'm going to hold on to this. That is my son's handwriting on the envelope, Eleanor said. He can send you another one. Bridget was already turning away. That was the first thing they took, the paper proof that she had belonged here at all. In the service tent, Eleanor's gift was being sorted into the appropriate category. The gray plastic bin received it without ceremony. A forgotten umbrella broke the fall. A hairline crack traveled across the watch glass and settled into the engraving like a signature. The gates closed behind her with a soft, magnetic click. Eleanor stood on the gravel shoulder of the highway with her handbag on her arm. She did not pace. She did not make a scene. She wrapped her hands around the iron bars, cool even in the afternoon sun, and watched through them, across the printed grass, toward the white tent where her boy would say his vows without knowing she was on the wrong side of a fence. A car slowed on the highway. A window came down. A phone came out. She heard a young voice say something about a video already spreading online. The car drove on laughing. Her phone had begun buzzing with notifications from an app she barely used. She turned the sound off. 62 years. Scrubbing floors at 15 after her father's accident. Widowed at 32 with Marcus still in diapers and no plan except the next morning. 3 jobs at once, and then 2, and then 1, and then the night classes she never told anyone about. Every step of it earned, none of it visible. She had been invisible in rooms her whole life. She had not expected to be invisible at this one. From the service entrance, a figure appeared, jogging along the fence line, a young woman in a catering vest 2 sizes too big, balancing a glass of ice water. She passed it through the bars with both hands shaking. I'm not supposed to be out here, she said. Then be quick, baby, Eleanor told her. The girl's name was Tanya. She was 19 and had been watching from the fountain. Her eyes were wet and furious. "I called my own mama as soon as it happened," she said. "I don't even know why, I just had to." She glanced back at the tent. "Mr. Marcus, he's the only one in there who ever learned our names." Eleanor drank the water slowly. It was cold and clean and the kindest thing that had happened to her in the last 2 hours. "He learned names," she said, "because somebody taught him that people matter more than things. Today I get to find out if it stuck." Tanya squeezed her hand through the bars and ran back along the fence before the cameras found her. Eleanor stood at the gate while the processional music started inside. Guests drifted toward white chairs. A drone rose over the tent, blinking, recording everything in perfect color. Her phone lit up in her hand. A name she recognized. Gerald Hines, the chief financial officer of the company she had quietly controlled for 9 years. She answered on the third ring. He was apologizing before she finished saying hello, quarterly documents, board signatures, urgent. He was already driving 20 minutes away. Could she meet him at the venue? He had seen her calendar. He was babbling the way he always did when the numbers were large. "Gregory," she said. He stopped. She looked through the iron bars at the white tent one final time. "Come to the main gate," she said, "and hurry." She ended the call. She smoothed her skirt. She waited. A black sedan came up the highway fast and braked hard enough to leave sound on the gravel. The door opened before the engine finished. Gerald Hines stepped out. 58 years old, silver hair, a man who negotiated in billions and still ironed his own shirts. He had his jacket half-buttoned and a leather folio under his arm. He stopped when he saw who was standing on the shoulder of the road. The folio hit the ground. "Chairwoman Lawson." His voice broke on the second word. He crossed to her at something near a run. "Why, ma'am, why are you standing outside?" At the gatehouse, Dale straightened. 2 valets turned. A cluster of late-arriving guests on the drive went still, sensing a shift in the weather. "Hello, Gerald," Eleanor said. "They didn't let you in." He was already doing the math, reading the gravel shoulder and the closed gate and the bare iron bars and her bare wrist and the missing gift she should have been carrying. "Who put you out here?" "The bride didn't care for the dress." Gerald blinked twice. His entire career in risk assessment ran that sentence and returned a red result. "Vanessa Whitmore," he said. "She put you outside this gate." "They were polite about it," Eleanor said. Gerald Hines had once watched the chairwoman sit silent through a hostile board meeting for 2 hours and then end a man's career with one signature. The calm in her voice right now was the same calm. He turned to the gatehouse and held up his company identification. "Open this gate." The attendant started to object. Gerald did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. He named the company. He named its controlling shareholder. He named the percentage she held. "Every paycheck on this lawn," he said, "exists because this woman allows it. She does not attend the CEO's wedding as a guest. The CEO works for her." And then, in front of the gate cameras and a dozen phones that were already recording, Gerald Hines took Eleanor Moss's hand in both of his and bowed over it. Slowly. "The old way. 9 years you have signed my quarters, ma'am," he said. "Whatever this family did today, I did not see it and stay quiet. Tell me what you need." "A chair," Eleanor said. "I hear Section B has openings." Up the lawn, the information moved faster than the people carrying it. It jumped from the caterers to the guests to the photographer to the string quartet. By the time the rumor reached the main tent, it had already found the bride. Celeste Harrington came down the main drive at a sweep, veil trailing, 2 assistants orbiting her. She was already talking before she looked. "Why is my gate standing open?" "Gerald, you're here finally. Tell the board the signatures can wait. Today I am off the—" Gerald straightened from his bow. The rest of the sentence died. Her eyes moved from her CFO to the hand he was still holding to the woman attached to it. The woman in the faded blue dress. Gerald, she said, and the bright CEO voice came out 2 sizes smaller than intended. What is this? Tell me, he said, that you didn't. I don't what she claimed to be family, she wasn't on the… She is Marcus's mother, Gerald said, and now his voice had found its volume. She is also the controlling shareholder of your company, Celeste, the one you run at her pleasure. The color left Celeste Harrington's face from the top down, like someone had found a drain. The foundation, the contour, the performance, all of it went gray. Her mouth opened and closed. Her hand found an assistant's arm and gripped. That's no, Lark's Holdings is institutional, the cap table shows. Lark's Holdings is her, Gerald said, and he pointed one finger at the woman in the blue dress. It has been her since before you were hired. Who did you think approved your budget every quarter? Who did you think LM was? Then came the sound of dress shoes on gravel fast. Marcus Moss arrived at the gate at something close to a sprint, tuxedo jacket open, and stopped hard when he saw the picture in front of him. His mother on the outside of the iron fence, his bride on the inside, white as her veil. Mama, his voice cracked on the single syllable. Why are you out here? He saw her bare wrist. He saw the corners of her eyes. He turned around to face the people behind him. Who put my mother outside this gate? Tanya appeared from the direction of the service tent, carrying a gray plastic bin. Inside it, on top of a stranger's forgotten umbrella, sat a brown paper package tied with baker's twine. She held it out to Marcus without a word. He lifted the package from the bin. He read his mother's handwriting on the small card. He untied the twine right there on the gravel shoulder, in front of 300 guests and a drone and several phone cameras and his bride. He opened the velvet box. His grandfather's watch, the one he had been photographed holding as a child, the one his mother had promised him for this exact day, sat in its velvet nest with a crack running through the face from edge to edge. It bisected the engraving cleanly. Time given is never wasted. Marcus made a sound that was not a word. He stood there for a moment holding it like something injured. Then he walked to his mother and placed it gently in her hands. You carried this all the way here on the bus, he said. For me, time given is never wasted, baby, she said. He reached up and unpinned the boutonniere from his lapel, the white rose that matched his bride's bouquet, and set it on a nearby folding chair. He offered his mother his arm. There is no wedding today, he said, to no one in particular and to everyone. My family is leaving. Celeste Harrington stood alone in the center of her perfect picture, in a dress that cost what a nurse earns in 6 months, while the seating chart made of human beings quietly began to walk out. Her mother stood beside her, pearls in hand. The caterers watched from behind the tent. The drone hovered overhead, recording. Celeste tried the pivot she had always had. She turned to Eleanor with hands pressed together, voice warm and wounded. Eleanor, Olivia, there has been a terrible misunderstanding. My staff acted without my direction. Obviously Bridget and Dale are finished, effective immediately. Bridget's mouth fell open. You told me to. I told you to manage the situation, not to remove a family member. Celeste turned back to Eleanor. You will have the front row, of course. You'll sit right here. We are family. What you heard today, that was stress talking. That wasn't me. Nobody moved. Then Marcus spoke quietly with his back still to the woman in the white dress. You looked at her. He turned around. You looked her in the eye, Celeste. I heard the microphone from the Grove. Thrift store dress. Charity ward. Your defense is that you didn't know who she was. Caleb, baby, I was protecting what we… That, he said, and his voice crossed the lawn clean, is the problem. You're not sorry you threw her out. You're sorry she turned out to matter. The silence after it had weight. Eleanor stepped through the open gate, back onto the lawn, and the crowd parted without being asked. She stopped 2 feet in front of Celeste, close enough to see the makeup cracking at the edges. Look at me, child, she said evenly. An hour ago I asked you for 5 minutes to watch my son marry you. You said my dress didn't fit your photograph. Now you're offering me the front row. Yes, because now you know what I'm worth on paper." She nodded once slowly. "That is what frightens me about you. You are only kind to people you believe matter, and you alone get to decide who matters. That is not a problem with your manners, baby. That is a problem with your soul." She said it without heat. That made it worse. Gerald Hinn stepped forward and cleared his throat. Per the terms of the shareholder agreement, he said, the controlling shareholder was calling an emergency governance review of the board of directors. Monday, 9 o'clock. Attendance was not optional. The words settled on Celeste Harrington one at a time. By sunset, the clips were everywhere, the microphone announcement, the bow at the gate, Marcus's voice breaking as he asked who had put his mother outside. By midnight, 1 million views. By morning, 4 million and climbing. But the moment that defined the week was not in any video. It happened when a 19-year-old in a catering vest carried a gray plastic bin out of the service tent and handed it to the groom. The internet could not look away from a man holding his grandfather's broken watch like it was something that could still be saved. Monday morning, top floor of the company tower, 11 directors around a walnut table. They had all seen the footage. Everyone in the country had seen the footage. At 9 sharp, the doors opened, and the woman from the videos walked in wearing the same pale blue dress. That was deliberate. Eleanor Moss had a closet full of suits that could quiet a stock exchange. She wore the dress. She took the chair at the head of the table, the one no one had claimed, and folded her hands. "My name is Eleanor Moss," she said. 9 years ago, my holding company took a controlling position in this firm. I stayed out of your way because the numbers were good and I believe in letting people work." She paused. "Last Saturday changed my mind about staying out of the way." What followed was not about a wedding. 4 years of human resources complaints, filed quietly and settled quietly. A receptionist written up for the price of her shoes, the word presentation in quotation marks in the documentation. Catering invoices for executive events with handwritten notes in the margins. No staff visible during the photography portion. 2 assistants who had left in tears and signed agreements not to explain why. A pattern of behavior documented in the CEO's own correspondence, sorting human beings into categories long before there were folding chairs involved. Tanya testified by video call, vest replaced by her Sunday best, voice shaking at first and then growing steadier. So did 2 caterers, a driver and the old piano teacher who said only this: "I taught that girl scales when she was 9. Her hands were kind once. Watch what power does when nobody is watching it." When Celeste's turn came, she spoke about growth metrics and shareholder value and the unfortunate optics of a difficult situation. She apologized for the optics. Even now, it was about how things appeared. The vote took 11 minutes. Removed as chief executive officer, effective immediately by unanimous decision. She kept her shares. She lost the office, the title, the parking space, the password. Severance tied to a non-disparagement agreement and 400 hours of documented community service, Gerald's suggestion, approved with the only smile of the meeting. There was no courtroom. There was no lawsuit. There didn't need to be, because that same week the internet did what boards cannot. A business journalist named Rosa Carver, who had once put Celeste on a magazine cover, published the follow-up story. The headline was 2 words: "Bus Stop Chairwoman." It traced Eleanor Moss from the laundry room she had cleaned at 15 to the night school ledger books to Lark's Holdings' quiet billions. It did not quote anyone named Harrington. Talk shows called. Networks called. Eleanor declined them all with the same 6 words. "The story was never about me." The piece ended on a photograph that made the whole country stop what it was doing. Eleanor at 19 in a borrowed graduation gown, holding her own mother's hands, hands that had cleaned hotel rooms for 40 years so one daughter could study. Under the photo, Rosa Carver announced what Eleanor had not announced herself. The Meridian Atlantic Foundation, funded by the company's first vote under new leadership, a full-ride scholarship program for the children of service workers, housekeepers, cafeteria staff, security guards, gardeners, loading dock crews. It was named the Ruth Moss Scholarship, after a woman who had never once in her life been invited through a front gate. Applications crashed the company website in 9 hours. Eleanor did not take the chief executive chair. She gave it to a woman who had run the company's logistics division for 11 years. A woman whose name the warehouse crews called out with genuine warmth when she walked through. Eleanor made only one structural change herself. Once per quarter, every executive works one full shift in their own lobby, kitchen, or loading dock. Name tag, no title. The policy is one sentence long. Know who carries you. Dale, the head of security who had walked Eleanor out, kept his job at her specific request. She said a man who apologizes in the middle of doing something wrong is already halfway back. He took a director role at the foundation and gave his first bonus back to it. Bridget's event firm was dropped by every vendor in the state within a month. Not by order, but by memory. The last anyone heard, she was planning corporate retreats in another region under a different last name. Celeste Harrington cleared out the corner office on a Friday with one cardboard box. The walk from the elevator to the lobby door passes the reception desk, the security podium, the coffee cart. A year of mornings she had crossed that lobby without seeing a single face in it. The faces saw her now. Nobody jeered. Nobody filmed. The receptionist held the door and said, "Have a good one, ma'am," in exactly the tone she used with everyone. That was the punishment in the end. Not hatred, ordinariness. To be treated on the way down with the same plain decency she had never spent on anyone below her. Witnesses say she stopped on the sidewalk outside like she had forgotten something. She hadn't. She was learning what it weighed. Marcus returned the venue deposit, the ring, and the registry in that order. When a tabloid offered him 6 figures for his story, he answered in one sentence and they printed it. "My mother already taught it to you for free." He added Wednesday dinners to the Sunday ones, just to see her twice a week. 6 months later, the marsh outside their town went gold with the change of season. The cedar house still had its crooked porch swing. The hydrangeas Marcus had planted for Mother's Day survived the winter. On Sunday evenings and Wednesdays now, a pickup truck parks out front, and a tall engineer carries in groceries his mother never asked for. Nothing about Eleanor Moss's life got bigger. That was the point. Same chipped white mug. Same tomatoes. Same church pew, 3rd row left side. The neighbors still bring her prom dresses to hem and she still does it for free. Most of them still have no idea. The pocket watch sits on the mantel 6 days a week. A watchmaker downtown restored it, new glass, cleaned movement, running perfect time, and refused payment when he recognized it from the news. But in the lower corner of the face, there is a hairline scratch he was told to leave alone. Fix what broke, Eleanor had told him. Keep what is true, we earned that mark. On the 7th day, Marcus wears it. She gave it back to him at a Wednesday dinner. No audience, no cameras, just a kitchen table and the food she made and the son she raised. The way it was always supposed to happen. Tanya started nursing school that fall on a full scholarship. First class of Ruth Moss scholars. She kept the catering vest. She says she is keeping it forever. As for Celeste, a letter arrived at the Cedar House in March. Plain envelope, no publicist's polish. 4 pages, handwritten, shaky in places. It asked for nothing. It did not mention the company or the board or the outcome. It said near the end only what 300 wedding guests never heard. I was wrong about you before I knew your name. That is when it counted. I am working on the person who did that. She had finished her 400 hours at a food bank 2 counties over and signed up for 400 more. Nobody filmed that either, which is exactly why it might be real. Eleanor read the letter twice on the porch swing. Then she wrote back one line and mailed it the following morning. Start over by being kind when no one is watching. Gerald Hines visits the Cedar House once a quarter now with the quarterly signature pages and a peach cobbler his wife makes from scratch. He stopped marking things urgent. He says the chairwoman taught him the difference between urgent and important, and the lesson cost him exactly one dropped folio. Whether Celeste becomes the person she described in that letter is her story now, not this one. But the people who were at that wedding tell theirs all the time. The piano teacher tells his students. Dale tells new hires on their first shift. Tanya will tell her patients someday, the ones who feel invisible in hospital gowns, about the woman at the gate, the one they sorted into Section B, who turned out to own the whole garden. And somewhere right now, a woman in a handmade dress is standing at a gate that should already be open. She might be a chairwoman. She might just be a mother. It was never supposed to matter which.